Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the patch 10.3 notes, analyzing them. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Come by, check out the stream sometime. We've been starting around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time most nights. Usually go till about 2:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's on YouTube, so be sure to come by, check that out. I will also have tier lists. Definitely do a support tier list. I might do a separate ADC tier list, and then we'll try to see if I can do at least a couple more tier lists as well on this patch. So be sure to check all that out. We also have tons of coaching sessions on the channel, champion guides, topical guides, just all sorts of great content. So come by, check it out. We're always adding more stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So Akali, they are increasing her Q cost by a significant amount. So that is going to be a huge nerf to her, I think, at some point. And then the Shroud nerf, faster speed at the start, but then falls off, so you can't just hide in the Shroud and have a ton of movement speed to dodge all the skill shots. And then perfect execution, targeted enemy champions. Let me go ahead and just, we'll pull this up. The Lolalytics 2.0 or whatever. Just for some references here. Then we'll go ahead and pull up Games of League. Usually I have this stuff pulled up, but I just kind of forgot for a second there. All right, so we'll go ahead and pull these up just so you can we can just kind of get a sense of sort of like, is this justified or not with some things, just to kind of explain it. Because I think sometimes people jump to conclusions, and especially if they happen to be biased, you know, if you're happen to be named after a champion that gets nerfed hard, it might seem like stuff is unjustified or unfair. I'll leave it to you guys to decide who I'm talking about here. But there have been several people that, you know, have complained that the Akali nerf is over the top. And the thing is, you know, there are several different ways that Riot has to balance, and they released some notes last spring on that in a Riot Please post, so go check that out if you want. But pretty much, if a champion is pick banned, you know, more than 80% of the time, if they have an 80% presence in pro, it's highly not likely that the champion is going to get nerfed at some point. So if you look here, I thought they had, where's the, oh, there we go, champions. So if you look here at champions, Akali is a 99% presence after 250 games so far in Season 10. So that means she's over the line. You know, it's just too strong. She has to be nerfed. You know, it's a pity. It's sad if people really like playing that in solo queue, but that's just how it is. I mean, anytime you play something that's super popular, that's like a really high skill cap champion that's also super popular in pro, it's going to be a feels bad because it's going to end up getting nerfed, even though it's going to have a low win rate in solo queue, and people are going to be confused about that. They're going to say, oh, well, Akali, you know, only has a 35% win rate or whatever. And this is patch 10.3, so that's a little, virtually no data for that. It's like 1 hour of data as of the making of this video. But she had a 48% win rate before, on patch 10.2, you know, and people are going to be thinking, that's not, you know, it's not fair. Why is that getting nerfed? Well, the thing is, there are lots of champions that are like that, right? Like Silas is around 49%. Tom Kinch, you know, is perennially hanging out around 45%. Rise is at 46%, Azir's at 48%. So there are lots of really good champions in pro that end up getting nerfed for pro, and Akali is just one of those champions. Like, she has to be nerfed. 99% presence is not okay. It's basically mandatory ban in pro. So I think this will knock her down quite a lot. You know, some people are saying that's the end of Akali. She's dead. You can never play her. We'll see. You know, I still think in pro that she could see some play. We'll see. And I still think if you're really good on Akali, that you can make her work, because they didn't nerf anything about her damage. Excuse me. They just nerfed some of her quality of life stuff. So sometimes that does completely gut a champion, but other times people can work around it. If you recall, people were saying this about Irelia all the time. Irelia ended up getting, I don't even know, 50 nerfs, and she was still really good. Oh, let me change the camera. Let me get the view thing here. I didn't realize my camera was blocking that. Okay, there we go. Off center, but whatever. Move that over a little bit. There we go. But yeah, I mean, people were saying, oh, that's it for Irelia. She lost her physical resist on her W. That's it for Irelia. She lost her shield breaker. Oh, that's it for Irelia. She lost her disarm on her ult, I think. There were just several different things they changed about her, and they kept saying it was the nail in the coffin for that champion. She was still competitive in pro for a really long time, and she still, like, can be really good in solo queue. Like, I see her sort of taking off in solo queue sometimes. I don't know if she's being played in pro right now. Can't see the win rates here. 37% win rate. So she still does have a 30% presence overall with a 37% win rate. So not amazing, but still, like, showing up sometimes. So we'll see about Akali. I think it's going to, people are going to overreact to this. People are going to say, oh, that's the end of her. That's the death of her. But, you know, she has so much excess power at really high level play that she still might be viable. The thing I think the biggest one is going to be this 5-point strike, and that's the one people are going to talk about the least. But having that extra energy, like, that can really add up. How many times you can get your Q off. Like, this is annoying, but you'll still have enough movement speed to, like, get away if you're trying to use it as an escape. And you'll still, like, a lot of the times you're just kind of hanging out waiting on energy anyways. Like, moving around a little bit in your shroud, and you'll still be able to do that. So it's, you know, it's annoying, but I think that's doable. And then the perfect execution, if you're playing aggressively, if you're using both of these to kill somebody, then it's not going to really matter that much. If you're trying to use this to escape, you still have so many escapes, right? Like, you can still use Twilight Shroud to escape, and you can still use your E to escape in some situations as well. So it's like, okay, they took one of your 3 potential escapes out of the picture. And even with this, you can still potentially escape, right? Like, if a jungler's coming in to flank you, they're behind you, you can still R over the jungler and then R again to get away, right? So I think people are, like, overreacting this a little bit. So I think that she will definitely get hurt, but I think you might still be able to see her in pro. We'll see. It definitely hurts. It's certainly not good for her. But I think if you are extremely good on Akali, then you might still be able to make it work. Okay, Aphelios, doesn't matter. Still going to be OP. The champion's just too strong right now. It's like, okay, so you can't kill people in the fountain now after you hit them with a Q, like, right when they're about to back, basically, is what this is. Or, like, if they're teleporting or something. You still can't kill them in the fountain, but, I can't. That's annoying that we can't see the percentages there. I might have to move this a little bit more. Yeah, 52% win rate and highest presence champion, 79%. You'd think that they might consider, you know, nerfing this champ again. Everybody complains about him in solo queue as well. I think he's one of those champs that's about 50%. Yeah, he's about 50%, so he doesn't look oppressive. But keep in mind, when Kai'Sa was pick banned the entire time and everyone thought she was, like, really OP, for a lot of that time, she was at, like, 51 or 50%. So, I still think he's too strong in a lot of situations, even though he's been nerfed a lot. So I really don't think this is going to matter. Like I said, it's only in those very weird situations where someone's teleporting or you hit them, like, in the last moment of their back. Like, they get shielded by Janna or something like that, like, right before they're going to complete their back. You hit them with the Q, and then you wait for that shield to fall off in the pool, and then you hit them with the final Q and kill them, like, right before they heal. Like, I feel like it's so situational. 1800, they're still going to get you unless you do something, like, very extreme, like complete a teleport or complete, like, a Pantheon jump or something like that. He's still going to kill you, so it's not going to matter. Okay, Azir. They keep buffing weird stuff about Azir. It's like, just cut to the chase. Like, just either buff his soldiers or just leave him in the gutter, you know? Like, they just need to give him a little more power up front early on. Like, just give his soldiers, like, lower the amount that he gets per level on the soldiers and just make it, like, the AP. Like, give it a bigger AP ratio or give it a higher base stat or something like that. His problem is he just takes too long to come online. He's still really good later on, but he really requires, like, 2 items at least. And most other mages are, you know, very deadly, even on, like, a half item. Just Sork Boots plus Oblivion Orb, and a lot of, you know, mages can blow up squishies. So I don't think this is going to be enough to bring him back. They do give him a little bit of mana. It's probably not going to matter. The extra, like, length on the wall is cool. Doesn't affect his damage. I mean, it will allow you to maybe more comfortably shut people out of, like, ramps and things like that. But, you know, it's disruptive. Maybe it's better peel. I just still don't think that's going to change the calculus on whether you want to play him or not. I think we have seen him some in pro, but I don't think he's done super well. All right, this is going to annoy the hell out of me. Let's just, there we go. That's what we need. We need that percentage right there. Okay, so let's see if we can just move this over a little bit more. So it's a little off center, but now we can get the win percentages there. 18%, yeah. So people are trying him, but not doing so well. Okay, Corki. Now this is one I think that people might underrate a little bit. I feel like this actually could help Corki out some. The burn duration, it's mandatory 1.5%. And if you look at Corki, that's actually quite a lot of damage because it's getting the extra 0.5 ability power, or I guess like 12.5% basically. But you're getting one extra, you get 3 ticks off of this. So that's like 36% of your bonus AD extra on the special delivery. And that's if they move out of it immediately and don't have to walk through it at all. So the problem is this comes online at 8 minutes, which is just way too late for something. Like, they just pretty much don't want you to use this during the early lane phase. But I just don't think he's going to be coming back. It's a nice gesture. I think they gave him a little bit more bomb damage, like 5 more bomb damage or something a couple of patches ago, but it's not going to matter. Okay, Diana. Don't think this is going to matter for Diana. You know, they're lowering her mana. They're doing that for some reason on champions, tinkering with their flat mana a little bit. I mean, maybe I don't play Diana a lot. Maybe she runs out of mana early. I still don't think this is what's making her very strong. Like, this does hurt her damage on her W, but you max W second, I'm pretty sure. And so this is not going to matter. Even if you, like, max it first, it's still 4 damage at all ranks. Now, that's per orb, so it does end up being 12 damage. But that's not really where a lot of your damage is coming from. It's coming from your Q, your resets, your E. That's what I think. I just don't think this is going to matter. It's not hurting her survivability. That's what's making her really strong right now. Is she can get Rod of the Ages. She gets this shield off of Pale Cascade. And then she does a lot of damage too. So this is not really like lowering her damage that much. And she still keeps all of her survivability. So I think she'll continue to be strong. I don't think she's like ultra OP right now. I think she's good. She's, you know, maybe a top tier. She's at 54%. I mean, it's hard to argue with those results. She's good. I mean, there's no way around it. She's good. I just don't think she's that far over the line. Probably. But, you know, she does need to be nerfed a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe take some damage off of her Q or her E or her ult or just anything that actually matters on her. But overall, it should be fine. Okay, Ekko, definitely on the strong side. I like that they're nerfing Jungle Ekko because I think he's scarier in solo queue than mid lane Ekko. This is going to nerf his clear. Now, that's just on his Z drive. That's not his Q. His Q is what does a lot of the damage as well. But he does proc this Z drive passive on every camp, I'm pretty sure. So this does add up. You know, pretty much it's doing like 50% more damage instead of like double damage off of it. So I don't know how much this is going to affect his clear speed. I'm not an Ekko expert. But it'll be all right. Maybe it'll knock 1% off. But I really don't. I mean, it's just his clear speed. It does matter, but I think he still is like okay at clearing the jungle early on. I don't feel like he gets super low, but this is one of those things where unless you're a jungler that plays him a lot, it's hard to get a feel for it. But it's not going to affect him in combat at all against other champions, and he's still really good at that. He basically has a double health bar, just an insane amount of movement speed, crazy scaling on his abilities. So I still think he's going to be pretty good. Now, he has virtually no pro presence, I think. He's one of those like solo queue wonders. I'm always kind of curious why he doesn't get played that much. He only has 6% presence. He did win, you know, a decent chunk of those games, but by and large, not really around in pro. Ezreal, mana growth. Okay, once again, probably doesn't matter that much. You're getting tier anyways, so you don't really have mana problems, you know, after the first, like, 7 minutes of the game. Attack speed growth doesn't matter. You know, he obviously does auto attack sometimes, but really, like, a lot of his damage comes from his poke and then just all-in burst. Once you combo, you know, once you get him low and then you hit him with your W, you can E in, you know, auto Q. So the attack speed really doesn't matter that much on him. It's nice, but like it's a low sample size, obviously. But, you know, he's 3-1 in pro, 75%. I think he's underrated. I really do think he's underrated because he's pretty good against a lot of the all-in supports right now. So against your Leona, you're not... Nautilus is a little trickier because you can't dodge the Nautilus at all. Like, you're going to get knocked up. But I do think that that he has a lot of defensive tools that other ADCs don't have. And the big thing is, like, ADC, I feel like, as a role, is one of the least consequential roles right now on this patch. So if you can just play an ADC that just plays safe, farms, you don't die, you can survive, you know, getting 4-man dove bottom a lot. Ezreal is going to be one of the better champs at that because he can itemize into armor with Iceborne Gauntlet. He naturally can farm really far away, so you don't have to step up in the lane. You can play really far back if you think you're getting camped or if your support's roaming or something like that. You can play really far back. I mean, everyone knows he's one of the safest ADCs out there, if not the safest. So if you can just play safe, farm the best that you can, and just play Survivor in the bot lane, sometimes that's good enough. And then later on in the game, like, he's pretty good at poke. You know, there is some sustain out there right now, but his poke is good. He has nice utility. He's got the slow with the Iceborne Gauntlet. He can apply some pressure when you're trying to siege. There aren't a ton of siege champs, I don't think, that are being played right now. It's a lot of melee champs in mid lane, a lot of melee in the jungle. So that does give him a good opportunity to siege. So I think he's better than people think. I don't believe his win rate is that high in solo queue, but I still think if you are skilled on him, then you can be good. Now, this is higher than a lot of people might suspect. It's close to 50%, which is definitely not the lowest AD carry out there. Okay, well, whatever. These goofy bot lanes. But, like, it's not that bad. Like, he's over Xayah. He's over Kai'Sa. Now, he is close to the bottom. But I think people are really discounting just how useful it can be to just be safe as an AD carry right now. So, we'll see. Do I want an Ezreal on my team if I'm playing support? Probably not, but I'll be honest with you. If it's an Ezreal that knows what he's doing and just doesn't die, you know, I'll take that every day of the week versus the Misfortune who goes 0-8 on my team. So, if you can just not die, I'm cool with it on my team. I'll take it. Sign me up for solo queue. If you can just not go 0-8 in 8 minutes, I'll take it. Okay. And doing that empowers your support to go get deep vision, to go ward, if you have a decent support on your team, to go roam. You know, so allowing your, like, Nautilus and your Leona to basically just camp middle, just reverse camp, so they camp middle while the enemy jungler camps you in the bot lane, and you just see who can survive longest. You know, I think that Ezreal has a pretty good chance in that kind of environment. Okay. Galio. Now, this is a little deceptive because this could help jungle Galio out. I know he was played in the jungle some. I think they nerfed him out of that. But that's kind of the biggest thing that I think of here because the jungle monsters can obviously stand in this for the whole time when you're trying to land it. So I feel like that could be good. I'm not sure if a lot of players are going to stand in this. Obviously, if you hit them with the E first or you hit them with your ult and then Q them, they're more likely to stand in it. But the fact that it's not burst damage and that it's like dot damage and it's only going to matter if they stand in this for longer than 1.5 seconds will make him better at taking dragons, barons, buffs. But still don't think we'll see him a lot. I'm not entirely sure exactly what fully knocked him out of the meta. I don't remember, but it has been a long time since he's been in the meta. I think it's been about a year or so since he's been in the meta, so probably not happening. Oh, I remember what it was. Yeah, the kind of the nail in the coffin was he couldn't flash. He couldn't charge up his stun and then flash, which I thought was a little ridiculous. Like, that's one of the whole purposes of playing him, but I don't know. They just managed Galio really poorly. I thought he was a cool champ with, like, some very unique properties to him, but honestly probably won't matter. If it does matter, it could be jungle. But once again, I'm just not really sure how viable that is right now. Okay, Leona, hurting her damage later. It's notable that Eclipse doesn't get hurt at all early on, and this is what you max first. It's like at level 5, you're missing 10 damage on your Eclipse. You're only going to be casting this once in most fights. Zenith Blade is the second thing that you max. It's 10 points at all ranks. She's still going to be OP. I think, like, her win rate may not reflect that. She's a very risky champion. I get asked a lot, well, why don't I play Leona? It's like she feels really oppressive when she's ahead. She's one of the best supports in the game at like starting a fight, chain locking someone and killing them. But the problem is she doesn't survive getting camped very well at all if you're not ahead. So you have to play up in the lane. She has to go all the way in whenever she connects. She does not pull them to you, so she takes herself out of position to go try to engage. If your team doesn't follow up, you're going to die. If a jungler like pops out of a bush, you're going to die. If your team's just behind and you have like a super beta troll ally ADC who never follows up with anything, you're going to die. So I think, in the best case scenario, she feels really oppressive, but in the worst case scenarios, she feels really worthless. Like, there's just not much in between with her. And she doesn't scale that often. So I personally ban her a lot just because I don't want to face the best case scenario Leona, where they pair her with a Tristana and like early double kill you in lane off of, some mistake that either you or your AD carry makes. And then you just don't get to play anymore, pretty much. So I just think that she's really extreme with what she does, and I just think it's really risky. And a lot of other people agree. That's why she's banned 37% of the time. I think she and Nautilus are the two most banned. Morgana is also banned because the people who play Leona and Nautilus do not want to play against Morgana. But yeah, she's one of the most banned supports because people just don't want to see the best case scenario. So I don't think that fixes what the problem is. I mean, the real issue why she's too strong is that she's just so difficult to kill with the way they changed her W. The fact that you have Aftershock, you get free resistances off of your W, which scales with Aftershock, by the way. And then she gets on top of that flat damage reduction of like 10 or something early on, which doesn't sound like a lot. But when you start adding up the fact that it applies to minions, it basically cuts minion damage in half. It's going to like severely reduce auto attack damage early on. It's going to reduce like Scorch, Aftershock damage, Electrocute damage, Airy damage. All of these little chip pieces of damage get reduced by Leona's W when they change that. And so makes her very, very good against a bunch of little dot damage or just, like I said, little chip damage from minions and runes and things like that. So she's extremely difficult to kill early on for all-in engages. And her CC is on a really low cooldown. So, like, your Q starts off on, like, a 5-second cooldown. Your E, once you start leveling that up, goes down to, like, a 6-second cooldown. And then your ult's on a 90-second cooldown. So, she just has really low cooldowns, and she can force fights. She doesn't have to position around minions, so you can hide from their hooks, but she can still engage on you anytime, anywhere through the minions. That adds a lot of threat. So, yeah, knocking off, 20 damage at level 5 matters, but how often does someone limp away with 20 health from a Leona fight? Not that often. Every now and then, maybe, but most of the time you overkill them with Leona. A lot of the times, right? Like, you go in, you do that full rotation, your AD carry just, like, breathes on their keyboard, you pop Ignite, and they're dead. So, I don't think that's going to change too much about her. Misfortune. Okay. Oh, my God. Thank God. Thank God they really reduced her scaling attack speed. I think that's been the whole problem. Yeah, so this means that by level 10, she's going to lose, like, half a dagger in attack speed. Oh, my gosh. Wow. That's intense. It's like, what? Who thinks of this nerf? Like, she's too strong. What the hell? She's, like, the most represented ADC, I think. I guess maybe now Senna is. She's the highest win rate, high represented ADC. She's got a 54% win rate in Pro. In Korea, it was way higher than that. I think she was like 60 or 70% in Korea with like 75% presence. Korea is just getting started back up, I think, today. So we'll see. But the West has been at it for the last while, and she's still really good. Senna seems OP. She's the one that gets talked about the most as being OP, if you look at like LCS and LEC broadcast. But she's got a 44% win rate. Right? So she's not even the most picked. Misfortune's the most picked. She has slightly higher presence because she's banned more. Misfortune's not banned. Nearly as much, but she's got a 44% win rate. Lucian is pretty popular, 37% win rate. Aphelios is 52, so Aphelios is up there, but she's still higher than Aphelios. And that's about it as far as like your AD carry choices. There's a couple, I don't even know who. Seriously? Varus is the next with 26% presence, is 57%. Zaya's 62%. So there are some that are higher, but they have far, far less presence as you go down. It's basically every single game is Aphelios, Senna, Lucian, and Miss Fortune. Some combination of those. So the fact they're only nerfing this is ridiculous. And she's one of the few that also has an extremely high win rate in solo queue. She's a menace in every queue. Right? She's got a 54% win rate in solo queue. Which is, 0.5% over Twitch and then a whole percent over Kog'Maw, who's level 2. But these aren't played at all. Like, these are specialists and one-tricks. Twitch half the time is going to be he's going to be a booster champ. Kog'Maw, I don't even know. It's just people on Smurfs goofing around. Like, of the mainstream, has 5% or more play rate. I guess Senna's higher. But of 5% play rate or more, she's, towering 1.5%, 2% even higher. So I just think it's too much. She has too much damage early on. That guaranteed crit off of the bounce is ridiculous. It's so much damage early on. She has good utility with that point click slow, which just sets up perfectly for Leona engages, Nautilus engages, blitz hooks, whatever. They're not getting out of that unless they flash. If you put that E on them and it's open field, has huge range on it. It's 1,000 range. You can't miss it. It's point click. You can even use it to set up your own ultimate, which, by the way, does 1 billion damage. It has literally 900% total AD ratio on her ult at level 6. In addition to whatever the base damage is, probably 700. Just an obscene amount of damage. Good poke. Good, just random movement speed. Right? Before you even get boots, you're running at 450 speed with her passive. Maybe not quite that fast, but it's just insanely fast. Free Moby boots. Off of your W. She even has great attack speed scaling now because she gets plus 100% attack speed off of her W. So she just does way too much. She comes online way too hard. There are a ton of different builds you can get on her. I think the crit build is still the best, just going Essence Reaver into Infinity Edge. But this isn't going to matter. Most of her damage comes from her abilities, comes from her Q, comes from her ult. So yes, the attack speed matters, but this isn't even base attack speed. It's growth, and it's a very small amount. They could have taken this down to 1%, honestly, and I don't think it would matter that much for her. She doesn't get attack speed items. It's either lethality or crit most of the time. So I don't know what they're thinking with that. How about you nerf her ult? Or, any of the other 5 things I just mentioned. Anyways, okay, Rumble. Scrap shield down, so a little bit less movement speed. Okay, it's gonna matter when he is getting ganked, and the shield is lower, so that's gonna hurt his all-ins. Because this is spammable, he doesn't have a mana bar, so as Rumble, you're pretty much using most of your abilities very often. You have to manage your heat level. Rumble's a really cool champ, by the way. I mained Rumble and near the end of Season 1 and all of Season 2. I had 700 Rumble games or something. And that's back when I only played 900 games a season when I wasn't streaming. Just played a few games a day. But yeah, he's been making a resurgence, especially in mid lane. Now, is he that much of a menace? I mean, he's the 4th most picked with 55% and a 72% representation. So, he is getting nerfed. So it'll matter. I still think he'll probably be all right. I'm not sure in solo queue. He's pretty good in solo queue too, so fine. That's okay. Now, I haven't even seen a Rumble support stuff going on. I think it was a little all capsy for me, but I could think about it. That'd be really cool if you could play him support. I mean, he doesn't require a mana item, so you can just go straight for the the Leandries, Rylai's, which is good. You do have good poke. I just worry a little bit that he is susceptible to all-in hard engage, but maybe he can be played as support. But it's so hard to tell what's legit and what's the truth these days when you're going through and trying to find some cool new stuff, because everyone's just trying to get you to click on their video, and it's just so much all capsing. Yeah, he's 44% win rate as support. Now off of a really low pick rate, but virtually non-existent pick rate. But I've tried him out a year or two ago. Obviously a lot's changed since then, but he does have good poke. He has good harassment, but he is pretty susceptible to all in. And he kind of needs, gold to get his items to scale a little bit. Okay, Sejuani, bonus attack speed, getting free 10% flat. Now that matters. The Misfortune, whatever, not even 1% per level. not going to matter. But 10% at level 1, that matters, especially for a jungler. So, we'll see. I mean, this, who cares? Like, this isn't going to matter, I don't think. I guess, like, when the little Krugs hit you on the way out, you know, you're not going to have your shield ready to gank immediately thereafter. You might have to wait a couple more seconds. So, maybe that matters. But this extra 10% is going to matter. So, she's pretty far out of the meta. I still think tanks aren't amazing right now, although I do think they are probably a little underrepresented. I think they're probably a little bit better than people think. So we'll see. But for now, I would expect her to go up to about 50%, maybe off of that. Gain maybe a percent or two. Okay, Senna. Now, this is going to be a big hit for AD carry. And as we saw, she needs it because she's kind of the #1 in pro and the #1, I guess not #1 win rate in pro, but #1 presence in pro and #1 win rate in solo queue. So now, basically, cannons don't drop souls anymore. You get a 1.67% chance if you kill it. And they are changing this bug fix. Your Nenazak pointed this out on stream the other day, that if someone takes Relic Shield, then they can give her the procs, and she can have a higher chance of getting souls. But they're changing that, so that doesn't work anymore either for Relic Shield users. So, realistically, you know, you were getting 1 per minute, 1 of these souls per minute. So, at about 20 minutes, you're going to be down about 20 stacks from where you were. Now, you do, you know, you have like, whatever, maybe a 25 or 30% chance of getting 1 of those souls. But it's still going to be a pretty big thing. So I think that you're going to be down like 1 whole rotation or whatever. Like the 20 AD and the 15% crit potentially by 20 minutes into the game. So that's obviously very significant for her and her scaling. So I think that she'll still be viable. I think she'll still be good. You can still get souls off of attacking the enemy. I don't think she should get souls off of minions anyways. If you can get it off of harassing the enemy, that's already enough, I think, personally. But she'll still have a small chance of being able to get it off of souls. So, we'll see. I think she might go down in solo queue by maybe 1.5% off of that. It'll be pretty significant. In pro, she's already like really low win rate, so we'll see. I mean, one of her things in pro is she does not take towers quickly. She doesn't take dragons and barons quickly. That's, you know, that's rough, and she's just pretty much never going to kill like an Ornn or a tank, I think. And Ornn's very popular right now. He doesn't have the highest win rate. But it's just going to take her forever to kill tanky champions, I think. But, anyways. So, we'll see. I think she'll still be alright, but it's definitely gonna be a pretty big hit to AD carry. I don't think, once again, that she's going to be completely out of the meta, but she'll certainly lose a couple percent. Okay, Sett. His champion's absurd. Like, I forgot, someone said it was certainly T that designed him. I guess, you know, like, everything about him is not ridiculous. He does have a 57% win rate in pro right now, but many things about him are ridiculous. So not everything, but many things. So even in the jungle, he's 55%. That's not even like his best role. He's 57% mostly played in top. Off of, like, basically 80% presence. He's picked or banned in 80% of games with a 57% win rate. Like, 55 already starts to get absurd. Like, very few champions get to 55, and the ones that do are usually like a 1% play rate, you know, something really obscure that just like one tricks play or like booster champions play, like Taric Middle or something, you know, clocking in at 60%. Like he has in the last few patches. But this is legit. Like, he's played or banned every single game by people who don't know how to play him, auto-filled people. Just everybody plays him in multiple roles, especially top lane, jungle. I've seen him mid lane. He's just everywhere. And that's just a sign of something that's just really, really OP. And, you know, they are nerfing him a few times. They're nerfing his health regen, which is a joke. His, you know, passive gives him another, like, you know, typically at least 10 health per 5, so he effectively gets like 18 health regens. That's over double what most other top laners get. And then his Haymaker, they're lowering the cooldown, so you can only cast this once per fight. It's usually only good once per fight, right? Because you have to take a lot of damage to get a big Haymaker. So typically you're going to take like 50% of your health and damage, then you're going to get this massive shield, which gives you like 50% health. And you're going to clock somebody for like 500 true damage. And by somebody, I mean potentially the entire enemy team. Like, It's just ridiculous. And the spread on this thing, if you've seen this, the width on it is absurd. It almost takes up an entire lane. Like, honestly, if you're standing near where the tower is, like in bot lane, I've had this happen to me, like, and I paused it and looked at this on stream, like, the width of it almost literally takes up the whole lane. There's, like, maybe, like, 50, length, 50 radius across the lane where that cone doesn't hit. The cone is just absurdly huge. It's like 800 or something, too. I'm not going to pull him up. Y'all know what I'm talking about if you played against Sett. I mean, it's almost impossible not to hit the entire team if it's a team fight and you use this ability. So, and it's just too strong. It's just too much health, too much damage mitigation, way too much damage, true damage. And he has CC on top of that. If he tackles somebody, it's basically like a Vi ult on crack. It not only does damage to the single target and disables them, but it does damage to everyone around the target as well, like a very large amount of damage. It has like extra playmaking potential where you can tackle someone into your team. It can get you to the back line, so you can tackle a tank onto their AD carry. It does massive damage if you do that, and looky there, you're on top of the AD carry. Oh, and you have another champion with you, so it's just perfect for your E, so you can pull them together. Like, there's just so many synergies in his kit. He has a lot of CCs, not a lot, but enough CC. He's sticky, way too much damage, way too hard to kill. So I don't think this is going to matter that much. I mean, maybe he drops 1%, maybe 2%. I could be wrong about that. I did say that the change to Garen's E back in December was, like, not going to move the needle that much on him, and it ended up completely nerfing him out of the meta. So maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. Especially, like, this nerf is only for later in the game. It's not even early game. So he does typically get bullied out early on. So maybe people can change around and, like, just close out games faster. But he almost always finds his way back into the game. And even with one item, he's just absurd. So I don't think it's enough. They need to just remove the true damage. True damage is so toxic on so many champions. Anyways, okay. So Sona, they're nerfing her movement speed down to 20%. I'm not entirely sure this is necessary. She did have a really high win rate overall. She doesn't really have any presence in pro, but like her win rate is still like 54%, so it is high. It's on the high side, so they're knocking it down a little bit. I still think she'll be good. I mean, the 20% for rotations is good. This might invalidate that top lane Sona that some people have been running, that, some content creators like RVZ Stealth are just like swearing by. It's like an S+ build. I'm not sold on it. I love RVZ. He's great. He's cool. I watch a lot of his content. I'm subscribed. But, he and some other people I think are hyping that top lane Sona up a bit too much. We'll see. But, it's supposedly you take top lane Sona, you go Frost Fang. You don't really farm a lot of minions. You just, like, farm, like, procs off of the enemy. And then once you get to level 6, you just abandon the lane and hard roam around. I think if you're in silver and you start doing that, people are just going to flame you and just go AFK almost immediately. Like, I just don't think people are going to be on board with that. And it just requires so much macro knowledge. Like, you can't just run around anywhere. Like, you have to find good places to gank, good synergies, because you're giving up so much gold top lane. If you just played a normal top laner, it just stays there and farms. Every 2 waves, maybe 3 waves is worth a kill. So if you're not getting kills constantly, and you're losing out on a lot of experience by doing that. So if you're not getting kills constantly, and like forcing a lot of action doing that around the map, I just don't think it's going to be worth it. So, I don't know. We'll see. But like nerfing the movement speed off of her could put a nail in the coffin to that strategy. But overall, I think she'll still probably be pretty good. Okay. Because she is still gaining 10% from what it was originally. I think it was originally 10%. Now it's 20%. So it'll still be pretty good. Okay, Yuumi. They're calling this... I've heard this marketed as a buff. This is a large nerf, I think. So they're knocking off 55 flat damage from her Q, but they are giving it up to 8% of the target's current health. So if you're saying, that averages out at like 5% of the target's current health, if they have 2,000 health and you take them from 100 to 0, there's no minimum on it. This as well. So if you take them from 100% to 0, then the average would be 50 extra damage. And that doesn't even cover what you're missing here. So it has to be against somebody. It has to be, first of all, I assume this goes up per level, +2 to +0.8. I'm assuming that's per level. I don't know when it caps out, if it's level 18 or it caps at level 11 or whatever. But presumably this is going to be at least in the mid game, not the early game where you get the 8%. And they have to have a lot of health. I mean, there are some like assassins and squishy champions that are never going to get to 2,000 health, you know, in a normal game that's like, these days, like 25 to 30 minutes. So, you know, I think it's a nerf. And like, at minimum, it's neutral. Like, it's better against tanks, but it's like, does she need to be good against tanks? I don't know. It's just bizarre, like a lot of these changes they're making. They are lowering the mana cost to 90, so it's still 90 flat at level 1. You know, so your first 4 or 5 levels or whatever is still an absurd mana cost. So I just don't think that's going to fix a lot. Okay, Soraka's silence doesn't immobilize her anymore. Okay, cool. Probably not going to matter. And then, so like Q is neutral at best, likely a nerf against early game targets. That's what I think. And then Zoomies, you're losing 40 health off of Zoomies. No longer just a heal bot. Okay, see, when you say no longer just, that implies to me that you're giving her something else, right? Because if you say she's no longer just a heal bot, then she's not anything, because that's what she was. For them, like, she does other things. So I don't know. Anyways, the wording there just makes it sound like, oh, this is going to be positive. Yeah, she loses healing, but she gains some other stuff. It's like, no. So yeah, that's a massive nerf. Even if you have 200 AP, you're only getting 20 back out of this. And that's, like, really late in the game for support Yuumi. So, massive nerf. She's already a low win rate champ. She's barely played in pro. I just don't know what they're doing at this point. Like, I know that she had 100% presence, like, last fall. But, like, nobody played her last patch. Do you really need to buy, like, why, like, who's losing to this champion? Right? Like, she has no presence in pro. Like, literally has not been picked once out of the last 250 games in Season 10. And she has a 48% win rate in solo queue. Like, what? One of the lowest win rate champions in solo queue, in Platinum at least. Like, the 15th lowest champions. There's 135 champions, or whatever the number is, that are a higher rank. Well, I guess that's support. So, maybe it's not that extreme. But either way, like, I don't get it. Whatever. Sorry, Jolty. He's a member of the channel that really likes Yuumi, that has been really sad for the last couple of months. Okay, jungle monsters. I don't think this is going to matter for the jungle, honestly, that much. Like, they're changing the unique monster hunter so that you gain 10 more experience per kill off of that. So that means that if, like, laners come in and poach your stuff, then they're not going to get as much experience, so it's a little bit less efficient. And the minion gold penalty, if you farm, half of your farm gold is from minions. So if you farm more minions than jungle camps, basically equal to or more minions than jungle camps, then you basically lose 1 billion gold, right? But, like, funnelers work around this anyways. Like, they're trying to fix funneling. That's not how you fix funneling. Okay, you have to say, it has to be something like, if somebody else is near you while you're jungling, something like that, then, like, they leech your experience, or they share the gold, or something like that. Or they need to, like, nerf the jungle items more. I'm not really sure how you stop kind of the funneling strategies in solo queue. But either way, like, typically they'll just go farm out the lane, and then they might go farm, you know, 1 or 2 waves. Basically, every 2 waves that you farm are going to be 13 minions. So, like, every 1 minute, if you have perfect CS in mid lane, or whatever, if you're funneling Yi and you got Taric with you, there's 13 CS that's possible. Then you can go and farm up to 3 jungle camps in exchange for that, and that would only equal 12 CS. So even if your CS is terrible, or not terrible, but, like, not great, you get 9 of the 13 CS that comes through, you could still farm 2 jungle camps per minute and not go over the line. So, like, that's no problem, you know? Like, Taric can just try to freeze out the wave. You go farm raptors, you go farm wolves. Like, usually, I think, if they do it at all, it's like maybe one camp per wave. You can push and go get one camp. Maybe. I don't even think they do it that fast, the jungle. A lot of the time. So, it's not going to matter. Like, you can still get a huge boost off of just farming, 2 camps a minute. So I don't think that's going to affect funneling. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm not an expert funneler. But I still think that it's going to be a thing. Okay. Krug camp. So Krugs are basically getting buffed to make you want to do Krugs more often. But at the same time, they're nerfing the buffs. Red and Blue Sentinel are losing 5. It's not a huge deal. Krugs are gaining... Like, the big Krugs, I think, are worth less. So total XP is 15. But the big ones are worth less, and the little ones are worth more. So you have to stay and clear the entire camp. So this is actually, like, bad for Ivern. Not that a lot of people play Ivern, because he just clears out the 2 big Krugs. But you can't just, like, kill a couple of big ones and then leave. Like, you have to stay for the whole thing to get the value out of it. So Krugs are annoying to clear for quite a few junglers. They take some time to do it, and they're typically pretty far out of the way. But, I guess this is good if you want to clear Krugs. But other than that, like, they're not giving any more to the other camps. It's just straight up, like, if you want to waste more time, or not waste, but invest more time, going down to actually clear the Krugs. Because right now, people are just ignoring Krugs for the most part. So it's like, this is going to cut down on ganking. That'll be nice bot lane. I hope people go do Krugs more instead of, like, camping my lane. Overall, I just don't think it's going to matter. And then you get a little bit of extra monster scaling. Like, I don't know exactly what the breakpoints are here. But I just don't think that junglers are going to get a lot out of this. It's okay. But to be fair, I think junglers are in a fine spot. I talked about this a ton on the stream. It's like so many junglers and people that are really sympathetic with the jungle, like, want the junglers to be able to solo kill or at least be competitive with the solo lanes. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's where junglers should be. Because I think junglers should basically be like an early game AD carry. It's tough to make an analogy, but like somewhere between like support and AD carry on the power spectrum. Like, that's where I see them. They should have about the same experience as the duo lane. And the main reason for this is they have so much power in the early game. They are by far the most influential role, not even close, in the early game. Because they dictate everything, right? Like, they can gank any lane they want. Anywhere they see an opportunity, they can go gank it. They can go, like, invade the enemy jungler, fight them, force those things. They can go, like, contest objectives, like Scuttle, Dragon, early game Rift Herald. Like, so much of the game rides on the jungler in the early game. If you have a bad jungler, it's extremely difficult to win right now. Even when junglers are like, oh, LOL jungler 2020. They're still one of the most influential roles. I looked at a really cool video by Mobalytics the other day, which showed in the Challenger, the top 50 Challenger players from North America, Europe, and then Korea. And on every single one, junglers were the most represented role, even though they're supposed to be, like, super weak right now. So they're getting a buff, and they already have the most players in the top 50 Challenger in every region. In EU, it was extremely lopsided. It was like 16 of the top 50 people were junglers. In North America and Korea, it was a little more balanced. I think they were closer to like 12 or 13, so still over average, but like not absurd. So they're already really good. And it's so flexible too. Like, there are several different kinds of junglers you can play that can be good. Now, I do think the best junglers, especially at higher elo, are like the hard gank, like hard camp junglers, like Lee Sin, Elise, Nidalee, things like that. But I think that Jarvan's really good in pro play right now. Like, Gragas is getting played a ton. Almost never see Gragas in pro or in solo queue. But yeah, you see Jarvan, and then you've got Elise is definitely going to be up there. Lee's going to be up there. I thought we were seeing more Gragas. Am I just like... Maybe that was just Korea or something. And he's still sneaking in there, so... I think jungle's fine. So yes, I don't think that the buff's going to matter that much, but also I think jungle's fine. And the thing is, you have to pay a price. If you're that good early, you can't also be that good late in theory, or that's just OP. Right? So junglers should fall off after 20 minutes. They should sort of be relegated to a more support type of role. Because they're not getting the solo lane experience. They're not getting as much gold, but they are getting other people further ahead. And some people, might say, well, how am I supposed to carry if I'm not the person who has the most gold? I say, well, welcome to support life. Like, supports win all the time on even less gold, even less influence in the early game. And it's like, you can just play mid or, like, top lane if you want solo lane power. Yes, the solo lanes are important, but they don't have the ability to roam and impact as much as that. Now, mid lane is OP. Let me just preface by saying that mid lane is OP. Because they can actually push and roam and influence stuff a lot, and they get solo lane XP, and they get a lot of gold. So mid lane's just too strong, I think, in general. I don't know how they fix that. I don't know. I don't know how they fix that. But mid lane's too strong. But I think that, like, top lane, a lot of people meme on top lane not being that influential either. Like, they kind of need their levels. They need to be able to split. They don't have that much macro pressure on the map. And then, bot lane and ADC, definitely, anyone that says that those are, like, the most impactful roles are trolling right now. Like, those, it's so hard to win as bot lane right now in general. Like, you're under level, you're underpowered, you get chain camped every game. Jungler, like, the best thing to do is still camp bottom every game. The mid laner, if they're ahead on the enemy team, they're going to push and sit on you mid lane. Most AD carries still take 2 items to come online with a few exceptions. Your Misfortune, your Aphelios. Senna even takes a little bit to come online. So it's just like you're slow to come online and you get camped and just brutalized all the time. I'll tell you, in most of my games, the ADC just doesn't even matter. Whether they're fed, whether they're feeding, it just doesn't matter. Like, I just almost always find myself playing around mid lane or jungle to win the game. So I think that jungle is a top 2 role. I think I'd probably say mid is probably the top and then jungle. It's certainly not lower than 3. I don't believe. Maybe someone could say top or ADC, maybe support, but it's in the top half of roles being played right now. So I don't think it needs to be buffed. I think people just need to, like, have a reasonable perspective of where jungle should be. And in my mind, with how much power you have early, they should be worse later. That's just what I think about it for balance purposes. There are still things that are very good later, but they have to sacrifice early to do it. So, like, Master Yi, extremely good late game, terrible early game, right? Things like Ekko, not amazing early game, but very good late game. So you do have late game options if you want that. You just can't have your cake and eat it too, right? A lot of times, as jungle, if you want to play Lee Sin or Elise or whatever and be a god in the early game, you need to fall off later. Like, that's just how it goes. That's what I think. Anyways, like, you can't, in my mind, you can't be, like, it's not balanced if you're an Elise and you fail 4 ganks and you still are the same level as a mid laner, or the same level as a top laner when you haven't even, like, farmed your jungle at all. So, anyways, visual effects, don't think that matters. Nautilus, ARAM balance is bug fixed. So don't hate on me if you're a jungler. I'm just being honest. I think it's in a fine role. I think it's in a fine place right now. I think it was really OP at the end of last season. It's in a better place. I wouldn't mind seeing Dragon be a bit stronger than it is right now. Like, individual dragons. Because a lot of people, a lot of pro teams are just ignoring that. I think that would help junglers out. If you manage to get some priority, take dragons early, I think they should have that power. And I think that would help bot lane too. Because as a support, I mean, one of the things I think I do well for my elo bracket is that I get priority, I set up vision, and I really help direct people to get those early dragons. But the payoff is so low. Like, in Infernal used to be, at one point I think last season, it was 15% for first Infernal. It was 10% in the preseason, and then they've nerfed it down to like 4%. So, anyways, I think they could stand to buff up Dragon a little bit. Even if they don't, like, they don't want to buff the, like, permanent buff that you have, they could at least increase the experience in the gold or something like that. Like, give everyone that's, like, in the area, like, 50 gold or something like that when they kill the dragon, and give everyone, like, a little bit more experience. Because sometimes I feel like I'm almost losing out by getting the dragon if you know, I lose out on a wave of experience to do it in the bot lane. Because then I'm, you know, falling behind. They're going to hit level 6 before me potentially, even though I got that team-wide buff. It can feel kind of bad sometimes, even though you're taking the objective, which is risky and more challenging than just staying in lane and farming. So, I don't know. Anyways, okay, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. So, meta shakeup, I don't think there's going to be a ton. There, you know, there are some weird things. Check out some of my tier list videos, like Soraka tops becoming popular in Pro. I'm not entirely sold on it in solo queue. It's okay. But be sure to check out the tier list. I'll talk more about some funky builds, what I think about those, and which champions I think overall will be strong. As always, I'll hit you with what I think is the truth. I won't try to all caps you, but I will mention some of those weird builds and just kind of walk you through them if you want to try them out for yourself and see what you think. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.